Good morning, afternoon, or evening to ladies and gentlemen, depending on the part of the world you're watching this or being part of this event from. I am Ashad, and we are here in preliminary debates round of Pioneers 2071 conference to question the next 50 years. I will be adjudicating this debate session along with my assistant, Siwon Choi. Also on the adjudicating panel, we have very esteemed professors, Professor Byung-Ha Shin and Professor Do-Chang Lee. The scenario we will be discussing among ourselves would be global environmental change and innovative ways to address various issues rising due to this adverse environmental change. In today's first debate session, we have today's second debate session, sorry, we have three very capable teams, namely Aware, Terizo, and Planet Earth. The purpose of today's debate, rather discussion, is not to discredit each other's ideas and undue criticism, but to have a constructive session to look for ways to address global issues the world community may face in the years to come. So without further ado, I'd like to open the presentation session today, starting with Team Aware. You have 15 minutes to present your solution.
Hello everyone, we are from China. Though all our accomplishments and disappointments, what we have always been especially proud of is the exploration we possess for promoting environmental awareness. Here comes to the first part, ideal knowledge and introduction, making sure their resources are efficiently used and sustainable enough. Besides, forming a sound system of laws and a convenient platform for information sharing and decision making are equally important.
According to the environmental data provided and based on the detailed data of economy, energy sources, carbon dioxide emissions, and concentrations, major air pollutants concentrations, we divided the history of Greenland into four main periods. Next, accelerate the construction of the national carbon emission trading market system. Detailed information will be introduced in the next part. Policy number 3 is afforestation. This is to provide a carbon-neutral pathway. Forestry carbon sinks and to achieve integrated eco-economic social benefits. Also recover forest cover on deforested sites and degraded land in critical habitats. Policy number 4 is discharge permit system. The aim is to regulate the discharge behavior of enterprises and other production operators and to protect and improve the ecological environment. Those who have not obtained an emission permit are not allowed to discharge pollutants. The national environmental authorities are responsible for the unified supervision and management of emission permits nationwide.
Carbon dioxide emission right is regarded as a new type of economic resources. It uses a market mechanism to be bought and sold as a financial tool like currency.
The poor ecological environment of Greenland has greatly affected people's life and health, both physically and psychologically.
So the first policy is the electrification of the transportation and the commercial and residential sector. Wait, maybe not today, but sometime in the future, we can be sure that we will find a source of energy which is clean. So the second policy that we want to talk about is that this incentivization of the fossil fuel industry. So policy 4 is about public advocacy and education for responsible energy use. Though those stigma are understandable, they're not based on statistic and facts. That's why we want to educate people on what nuclear energy is actually about, and then let us make an informed decision as a society.
We know that the problem in Greenland is very complicated issue with such extreme temperature and worsening quality. Citizens are forced to spend most of their time indoors. And when we humanize them, we have to standardize the carbon measuring and reduction methods to promote green business practices. So this will be helpful to minimize the costs of transportation, switching while Greenland works on the other policies. In the long term, we plan to create a hydrogen-based long-haul transportation economy. Although this is not carbon neutral, the efficiency can be regulated much better than at the production itself. That concludes our ideology, policies, and innovations of the Cardizo. Thank you very much.
Okay, hello everyone. We're from Team Planet Earth, and we're here to present our solutions to basically save Greenland. nation in claims. With the issue of climate change, it encapsulates almost every single aspect of Greenland, may it be from health, economics, to a lot of other aspects, which is why a lot of our policies will be covering solutions to a lot of problems covered in this scenario. Okay, first of all, health. We understand that we need to prioritize basically the health and well-being of Greenland citizens, because the change in climate has impacted their health like significantly. It's said in the scenario that the gas mask industry is pretty big in Greenland now. Everyone needs to use a gas mask when they're going outside. So natural disaster management, because of the various climate changes, Greenland has quite a lot of number of disaster prone areas. It's to maximize efficiency. These crisis centers will be equipped with medical personnel who's trained on dealing with a natural disaster. An Amber Alert system will also be implemented so that people in these disaster prone areas will be alerted of an oncoming natural disaster and therefore will have time to evacuate before anything bad happens to them.
Thank you, Ellen. We're going to move on to agriculture. So we're going to have 3 policies under this program. The first one is the Organic Farmer Training Committee, where we will be educating farmers on organic farming methods, including crop rotation and multiple cropping. Second one is a healthy commodity team. So we will want to encourage farmers to plant nutritious crops. And then the third one is community gardens using hydroponic system. So we will be subsidizing the cost of installing a hydroponic systems. Next on foreign policy. So what we plan to do is that we plan to propose a new Dutch protocol. We're going to ask those who have succeeded to then put a sign at their apartment, home, or office door detailing how much electricity use they have lowered in that month. The point is to make the conversation of energy conservation salient and intrusive.
Thank you very much for sharing your beautiful ideas with us today. And this concludes the presentation part of this session. So esteemed participants, now we'll be starting our Q&A session. I would like to start this question answer session. I think there is a root cause for detrimental health of people of Greenland. So if the root cause is not removed, it doesn't matter how many health initiatives or health acts are implemented, the people will still keep on suffering and the health act will not itself be sustainable. What are your plan or strategy to address that root cause?
Starting with the proposed plan that Felicia talked about before, which is microalgae biofuel, we're going to be introducing it like stage by stage. So we're going to start first by using microalgae as a 50% substitute to fossil fuels.
I'd like to piggyback on that question by saying that if you would like to reduce the use of fossil fuels and coal, it's all fine in an ideal world, but the problem is that you'll have to have energy source to replace it. How would you scale up the production of biofuel in the scale of fossil fuels and the use of? Can you comment on that?
Scaling up will always be a problem. Will always be an endless race. So what we're going to start with is we're going to start with laboratory scale work. Our end goal is to replace fuels with biofuels, and we have seen, like even back in 2009, that cars have been running on microalgae fuel. So from these 2 methods, scale up will be possible.
This imposing of a high tariff, isn't this like some sort of violation of international trading? And possibly would it raise a conflict with other countries?
We forgot about that international trade.
So I like the suggestion of oyster farming, this very cute proposal. Do you know how costly it is to farm oysters?
I did some cost analysis from the Indian perspective, and the cost is not as much, but depending upon the place, it will vary for sure. But having a policy simultaneously, as we discussed earlier with the agricultural policies, I think that can be substituted and it can be worked through, which can be a two-faced solution to the sustainability and the food problem faced by faced by Greenland.
We noticed that this is very similar to the cap and trade industry, which is happening in real life. And there's a couple of issues that we notice with the system. First one is that by nature, the market itself is kind of questionable. The people who came up with the idea are not actually environmentalists.
For what you said about if they are so not so transparent in our trending process, I said it's also good for us to have a department in our government to have a look on this issue, and we may build a platform for the carbon trading, and we can make our information and the changing process transparent.
Is it feasible to, on what timeline is it feasible for them to establish such a scheme to get approval from those such world agencies to develop their nuclear program and install their molten salt reactors?
The reactors we are currently using are different from the one we are talking in general. The uranium reactors are the big reactors. What we are using right now, what we are proposing are the modular reactors, which are smaller compared to the big ones, and they can be installed in like more quantity and less power intensive, so they can escape upon that issue.
I would just like to invite the teams for their concluding speeches now in the reverse order as they presented before.
That is why we, as policymakers, feel the urge to create concrete change effective immediately. First, the atmosphere has continued to amass with pollutants and carbon dioxide to the condition where people of Greenland have to wear. Second, an increase of carbon dioxide emission, as well as other greenhouse gases, consequently leads to global warming and climate change. Third, to protect the remaining forest areas that threaten biodiversity, next, we have our Agriculture Act, which consists of four main points: reducing agriculture inputs, intercropping, crop rotation, and cover crops, and hydroponic community gardens, because our nation is our people. Lastly, the aforementioned environmental protection efforts need to correspond with the economic development and growth of the nation. Our solutions are quick, practical, and concrete, all to which answer the problems for the nation. We are convinced through 10 of our policies, bold changes will occur in Greenland. It will require all of us, we mean all of us, to do our part, because this is a collective responsibility, not just the government, not just corporations, but every single entity in Greenland. And that is what distinguishes our policy. Thank you.
We believe in a transparent society that is efficient and open-minded, a society that is led by people that take care for and nurture the environment and who are willing to take the necessary steps to make the past wrongs right. The main challenge is building institutional transparency. Our core values, integrity, trust, and community, represent the healthy relationships between each stakeholder of our society. Therefore, we have constructed various policies to help assist the people, as well as innovations to accelerate the availability of renewable resources. Further, using blend hydrogen combustion engine and hydrogen-fueled long-haul transportation to bring down the emission from the transportation industry. Lastly, we focus on businesses that target sustainability and food availability, such as oyster cultivation and plant air purifiers. We will now close up our presentation by what you, as audience, might have been eagerly waiting for. What is the meaning behind our name? Our team name Skerditso is not a random name, but has been chosen with care. It represents the value of reducing fossil fuels and reducing negative impact to our nation. We are confident that it is possible to grow while still keeping concern with the globe, so that in the end, each of us can say, Ego Skerditso, that is, I overcome. Thank you for your attention.
We believe that the most effective way or the most important thing is to raise the environmental awareness of the whole society. So that's where our name comes from. But the truth is, Greenland is developing, and there are so much limitations and obstacles, like where the money comes from, and where we can have the technology, and where we can find the resources. We may first apply the extended producer responsibility system in the electrical and vehicles and lead battery sectors. And we just want to make more concern about the real life.
Thank you very much for presenting your ideas, all of the teams.
I really enjoyed the presentation as well as the discussions. Good jobs.
Everybody did a great job. I enjoyed the discussion. Thanks.
Okay. Once again, thank you all for dedicating this time to a good cause. And I really believe that this was a really constructive session with you all. And I hope that the best team wins. And I wish all of you best of luck. Thank you.